trials relating to its vaccine candidate. The findings support further development of the Moderna vaccine. These studies continue in the United States. These agreements with Moderna and Pfizer are indicative of our aggressive approach to secure access to vaccine candidates now, so that Canadians are at the front of the line when a vaccine becomes available. These vaccine candidates are very promising, and we all look forward to the day when restrictions can be lifted entirely. However, there is more work to do. Any potential vaccine candidate will take time to develop, properly test, mass manufacture, and distribute. And all potential vaccines will require Health Canada regulatory approval prior to being used to safely vaccinate Canadians. Nous avons encore un long chemin devant nous, mais grâce aux ententes annoncées aujourd'hui, nous nous assurons que le Canada sera prêt à franchir la prochaine et dernière étape pour protéger ses citoyens. Today's announcement is a further step in terms of Canada's response to the pandemic. We are ensuring that Canada will be ready to protect our citizens when a vaccine is developed. That is why we are also procuring supplies, syringes, needles, and alcohol swabs that will be needed to perform the final manufacturing and packaging stages of vaccine production, as well as to support safe and efficient immunization. In closing, the agreements relating to vaccine procurement with Moderna and Pfizer that I've announced today are another positive measure towards our government's response to the pandemic. Canadians can rest assured that we will leave no stone unturned to keep them healthy and safe. Les Canadiens peuvent être assurés que nous continuerons de faire tout notre possible pour les garder en santé et en sécurité. I will continue to share updates with you on our progress regarding vaccines as they become available. We owe it to Canadians to explore every option for vaccines, and that is exactly what we will continue to do. I will now turn to my colleague, Minister Baines, to tell you more about his department's imperative work in supporting these agreements. Merci beaucoup. Megwetch. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Anita, and good morning, everyone. Since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've been doing everything we can to protect the health and safety of all Canadians. And I'm here today to talk about the life-saving work of Canada's scientific community. You've spent sleepless nights in your labs or at your desks helping us fight this pandemic. And I want to acknowledge that our efforts wouldn't be possible without yours. So thank you very much for stepping up in a big way. While we have many tools at our disposal to fight COVID-19, we understand that the one that will get us back to our day-to-day lives in a safe and effective manner is important to have a vaccine that we can deliver for all Canadians. That's why today, I'm excited to highlight the tremendous work being undertaken by both Canada's COVID-19 vaccine and therapeutic task forces. Since June, these scientific experts and industry leaders have been providing advice to the government on how to target our investments in projects with the greatest chance of success. They've been working tirelessly around the clock to deliver for Canadians. And our government firmly believes in the role of science in good decision making. Now, arguably more than ever, it's incredibly important that we make evidence-based decisions and recommendations that support the work of our world-class scientists. So let me begin with our vaccine task force. Leading this task force are co-chairs Dr. Joanne Langley and Mark Levonen. Dr. Langley is the division head of the infectious disease at the IWK Healthcare Center in Halifax and a professor of pediatrics and community health and epidemiology within Dalhousie University's Faculty of Medicine. And Mr. Levonen is the former president of Sanofi Pasteur Limited, the Canadian vaccine division of Sanofi. Au nom de la ministre de la Santé, je peux dire que nous sommes ravis que ces deux experts exceptionnels dirigent ce groupe de travail. Et l'approche du Canada en matière de vaccins est entre de bonnes mains. Today, I'm also pleased to announce that we have made our first investment following their expert advice. We're investing nearly $56 million to support clinical trials with Variation Biotechnologies Incorporated, VBI. The company is developing a COVID-19 vaccine at its Ottawa research facility. And through the Strategic Innovation Fund, the government will support VBI's work on preclinical studies and clinical trials. More investments will follow based on the continued work of the task forces, and I look forward to announcing additional Strategic Innovation Fund projects in the near future. As we continue our work to develop a made-in-Canada solution, the task force is also helping to identify and connect international vaccine candidates of interest to Canada. And Minister Anand just gave us some great news on that front, so we're very, very happy about that. And we're also making sure that we will be able to produce a vaccine at the scale necessary to protect all Canadians. And at the end of the day, our government's goal and objective is very simple. We want to deliver a safe, effective vaccine to all Canadians as soon as possible. En fin de compte, l'objectif de notre gouvernement est de fournir un vaccin sûr et efficace à tous les Canadiens le plus rapidement possible. With this in mind, we made several early investments targeting vaccine development. On April the 23rd, we announced $1.1 billion package with new funding for vaccine development, treatment research and production, and new and improved measures to track the spread of the virus. We also dedicated nearly $115 million for Canadian Institutes of Health Research to fund vaccine-related research and $175 million investment in promising antibody therapy and treatment through technology developed by Vancouver's Abcelera, which is now entering phase 3 of clinical trials. So today, I'm announcing additional federal funding for vaccine research here at home. Another great Canadian vaccine candidate, IMV, is receiving more than $3 million through the IRAP program and our NGen supercluster to establish a complete Canadian supply chain for its DPX COVID-19 vaccine. As the company works on clinical trials and manufacturing scale-up, this project will help to boost our domestic vaccine capacity. Let me congratulate the teams at both VBI and IMV on your exceptional work to keep Canadians safe. We'll be watching your progress very closely. As we all know, both fundamental and applied research stemming from Canada's world-class post-secondary institutions continues to be critical to our COVID-19 response. So I'm happy to share that NSERC, in collaboration with SSHRC and CIHR, so for Canadians that are listening, these are Canada's 3 main research councils, have committed $19 million to support the 369 COVID-related research projects, including work on vaccines. So that's a lot of progress on vaccines, but we know that vaccines are not developed overnight. Until we can immunize all Canadians, we must also focus on producing treatments for those who contract the virus. Therapeutic technologies and drugs will save lives and limit the impacts of this pandemic. And so I'm pleased to announce today that we have also established the COVID-19 Therapeutics Task Force, co-chaired by Nancy Harrison, a director and past chair of Life Sciences BC, and Cedric Bison, partner at Terrali's Capital. The task force, these 2 individuals, will make sure and assess that the task force prioritize COVID-19 therapeutic projects seeking government support. So on behalf of the Minister of Health, I'd like to thank these scientific and industry leaders for stepping up. To sum up, I want to express my gratitude to to the many Canadians who have stepped up to help in the fight against COVID-19. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of highlighting the life-saving work of our world-class scientists in Canada who are helping us make the best possible decisions to keep Canadians safe and healthy. Our work continues as we make further investments in support of the research for safe and effective treatments and vaccines. We know that we need to continue to invest and support our scientists, and that's exactly what we'll do. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Merci. We will now take questions from the telephone lines. Nous allons maintenant passer à la période de questions. If you have a question and you're using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before making your selection. Si vous utilisez un téléphone main libre, levez le combiné avant d'effectuer votre sélection. If you have a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Si vous désirez poser une question, veuillez s'il vous plaît appuyer sur les touches étoile 1 de votre téléphone à clavier. And any time you wish to cancel your question, please press the pound sign. Vous pouvez à tout moment enlever votre question en appuyant sur le dièse. So please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. There will be a brief pause while the participants register. Il y aura un court délai vous permettant de vous enregistrer dans la file d'attente pour la période de questions. We thank you for your patience. Merci de votre patience. The first question is from Mia Rabson, the Canadian Press. You are allowed one question and one follow-up. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good morning. I'm wondering, Minister Anand, if you might be able to walk us through a little bit more about what these deals with Pfizer and Moderna look like, how much money we're talking about, and if we will have that vaccine in hand before they're approved, if we're waiting, just sort of those kinds of details.
Thanks so much, Mia, for the question. And I'll begin by saying that we are engaged with multiple partners, potential suppliers of vaccines, both domestically and internationally. And so the information that we can reveal at the current time regarding doses in particular is being kept confidential because we are taking a prudent approach to the negotiations while we are engaged with other suppliers. Having said that, I will definitely indicate that in our contracting, we are taking the approach of establishing and negotiating firm orders with multiple suppliers, as well as options to purchase more orders should the need arise. And so the approach is one of flexibility to ensure that as the situation evolves and as the number of suppliers becomes more firm for Canada, we can isolate precisely how many doses we would need.
Thanks for that. I'm wondering, though, if this means we will be getting the vaccines in hand as they're being developed, so they're ready to go if they do get approval, or if we are waiting for that approval to come before we actually get the vaccine in hand.
All of the vaccines are going to require approval. Obviously, Health Canada regulatory approval is central here, and so the contracts reflect the requirement for Health Canada approval. And in particular, once that has occurred, we are expecting deliveries, if all goes well, in 2021.
Thank you. Merci. La prochaine question de Philippe Vincent Foisy, Radio-Canada. Une question et une question de développement. À vous la parole.
Bonjour, je vais avoir une question de suivi après. Juste un petit rappel que le français et les francophones sont plus intéressés à savoir ce qui se passe avec le vaccin. Donc, s'il faut avoir plus de français dans les conférences de presse, ce serait grandement apprécié. J'aimerais savoir, vous avez des ententes pour acheter des vaccins comme ça avec combien de compagnies au Canada, combien de compagnies à travers le monde, et on s'attend à recevoir combien de doses là, d'ici 1 an ou 2?
Merci beaucoup pour la question. Je vais commencer et peut-être le ministre Vince peut ajouter quelque chose aussi. Notre approche agressive continue avec un éventail diversifié de développeurs, de fournisseurs de premier plan pour obtenir des vaccins
This
pour
is
les
federal
Canadiens et
ministers who are announcing the government's efforts to secure a COVID-19 vaccine in Canada. The Canadian government has announced it has signed a deal with drug makers Moderna and Pfizer, and this is to secure millions of doses of COVID-19 vaccine candidates. We heard in that French question there, the French reporter asking how much this will cost. We know that the government is not giving out those details at this time because of the contract. The government is doing this, of course, because it wants to ensure a guaranteed supply of potential vaccines for Canadians. All vaccines, they're saying, will require Health Canada regulatory approval. And also, they've announced that there will be 2 task forces that will be working on, procuring vaccines, ensuring that Canadians have the best access to this. There's the Vaccine Task Force, which will be headed by 2 doctors in Canada. There's the Therapeutics Task Force as well. Lots of investments by the federal government to ensure that Canadians have access to a vaccine when that vaccine is ready.
L'avoir le chiffre exact sur combien on a d'ententes officielles avec les compagnies, je ne l'ai pas eu encore. Puis, je me demandais hier, la docteure Theresa Tam disait, c'est pas une solution magique, le vaccin. There's no silver bullet. On ne sait même pas s'ils vont être efficaces à 100%, à quel point ils vont être efficaces. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres solutions? Est-ce que vous êtes en train de développer d'autres choses?
This reporter is asking, of course, yesterday we heard from the Chief Medical Officer of Canada, Dr. Theresa Tam, saying that a vaccine would not be a silver bullet. And in fact, Canadians have to remember that they must maintain their physical distancing, hand washing, wearing masks. And this is something that the head of the World Health Organization also used those exact words over the past weekend, saying that a vaccine would not be a silver bullet. And of course, when asking a lot of doctors when this vaccine will be ready, they are saying that, you may not get needles and arms until sometime next year, likely at the end of spring, potentially the first of summer. So we still have a year away. But of course, what the federal government is doing here, they're announcing a deal with drug makers Moderna and Pfizer. This is to secure millions of doses of COVID-19 vaccine candidates. The question at first was whether those doses would be ready to go as soon as Health Canada gave the go-ahead. The answer is in the contract, and of course, Anita Anand, who is making the announcement today, she's the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, says that's part of the contract. They will have to have those ready to go as soon as they are approved by Health Canada, but all vaccines will require Health Canada regulatory approval. Again, this is Anita Anand, Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Navdeep Bains, also the Minister of Innovation and Science and Industry, announcing the latest from the federal government that they have a deal with drug makers Moderna and Pfizer.
Nous allons continuer poursuivre.
Thank you. Merci. Next question, Ryan Tumulty, The National Post. Your line is open.
Yeah, Ministers, I'm wondering, in this context, when you're trying to ensure some trust in Canadians, trying to garner their trust and their faith that the government's working for them, I'm wondering why not release the number of doses that you've secured here. I understand not wanting to release what you paid for them because of the ongoing negotiations, but wouldn't releasing the number of doses that you've secured offer some sense of security to Canadians?
Well, listen, I understand the question and the reason for the question. We are very, very intensely negotiating multiple agreements with multiple suppliers. The information relating to doses will come. But we have to remember that these suppliers are at various stages of vaccine development. It is important for Canadians to know that we are taking an approach to contractual negotiations that builds in flexibility for us to be able to increase orders in the case of, for example, successful clinical trials, successful vaccination production. And as a result, we are going to be able to have the ability to purchase more vaccines if that would be prudent for Canada. In the weeks to come, I will hope to be disclosing further information regarding dosages, as these are the first two contracts that we have entered into. I'm going to prefer to wait until we have more to say on multiple contracts.
And I'm wondering, I mean, you talked a little bit about this, but one of the other leading candidates internationally is the Oxford vaccine from AstraZeneca. Can you say if that's another one of the companies that you're in discussions with?
Obviously, there are leading candidates for the vaccine, and I'm going to allow ask Minister Baines to add something here in a moment. But we are taking our contractual negotiation orders, as it were, from the Vaccine Task Force. We are acting according to their advice and the Minister of Health, obviously, and we are really making sure that we follow the science, as Nav mentioned. And so that is part and parcel of our negotiation strategy. We're not out there on a frolic of our own by any stretch of the imagination. We need to make sure that we are engaged with suppliers that have promising vaccine candidates in clinical trials and the like, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Nav?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Anita. There's really three components to our strategy. First is to make sure we continue to invest in the best possible science here in Canada and support Canadian initiatives. That's why earlier on we invested in Vito Intervac in Saskatoon. We've also invested in the National Research Council for their production facility. And today I announced investments in VBI, for example, and IMV. And so domestic investments in Canadian initiatives is very important. We're also focusing on leading and promising international vaccine initiatives. And that's what Minister Anand highlighted as well in her announcement today. And what we're trying to do is also leverage some domestic production opportunities as well to make sure that we can follow up with those international initiatives as well as support Canadian clinical trials. So our strategy is focused on domestic production, supporting Canadian scientists, and pursuing promising international vaccine initiatives. All of this is informed by the vaccine and therapeutic task forces. So this is based on good science, it's based on expert advice, and that's what's enabling us to make decisions and being able to prioritize which initiatives to pursue. And as we're able to negotiate these terms, we will unveil those specific details in a timely manner.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Marie Vastel, Le Devoir. À vous.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question est pour la ministre Anand. Je comprends que vous ne voulez pas révéler tous les détails de vos négociations et de vos contrats.
Okay, those are two ministers. Canadian government is announcing a deal with drug makers Moderna and Pfizer, and that's to secure millions of doses of the COVID vaccine candidates. And of course, this is so the government can ensure a guaranteed supply of potential vaccines for Canadians. Now, they're not saying how many doses they have secured or how much that will cost. That is something that they are holding back on because of contractual negotiations and all of this. But all the vaccines will, of course, require Health Canada regulatory approval. Let's bring in the CBC's Ashley Burke, who has been listening along with us and joins us now live from Ottawa. So, Ashley, there's a lot of different bits and pieces to this, a lot of acronyms in there, and a lot of money announcements, and some of them are old, some of them are new. Can you break it all down for us?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also just important to start by saying that there is an international tug of war going on right now to see what country is going to develop a vaccine that works first. There are countries around the world all in a race to make this happen. And we heard the minister, Anand, there talk about the fact that these announcements today, these two companies that they are partnering with and they've agreed to launch deals with, is a way to get Canada to the front of the line. She didn't, as you mentioned, note how much money they're spending, how many vaccines they have secured, saying that they are in talks and intense negotiations with multiple companies right now. They don't want to do anything to jeopardize that, but we did get a commitment today from the minister that once there are other deals secured with different suppliers, that they will release some more details in the coming weeks. Now, we also learned today that Canada is also working on procuring equipment and supplies that will be needed to actually manufacture a vaccine once it is ready, and also for the immunization process. So they're securing things like syringes, needles, swabs, and other supplies. This is a way to speed up the process. It usually takes, anywhere from years to even a decade to develop a vaccine, but obviously there are scientists around the world trying to do this quickly within 12 months to 18 months. In order to do that, these are some of the things that they are doing ahead of time to speed up the process, as well as, flooding companies with money and reaching out to other companies around the world to try to partner with them. We heard today about this vaccine task force that Canada has created to as well work with $56 million to support clinical trials, and also working internationally to partner with other countries. We heard the Prime Minister talk about last month the fact that he wants to make sure Canada, he put Canada on a list as well with other countries around the world to make sure that there is an equitable distribution of a vaccine, and that countries that are not developed are not put at the back of the line.
So, Ashley, stick around for a couple of minutes with us as well. We want to go back to the press conference. We do know that the ministers were asked a question about whether the vaccine
trust towards the vaccine seems to be a bit low, and people don't seem to be very eager to get it. So is the government planning on making this mandatory or still considering it?
It's a great question, and of course, my objective today and what I'm really focused on is building domestic production capability. It's how do we make sure that we're in a position to sufficiently produce a significant amount of doses for all Canadians. And we're building those partnerships with industry. We're working with local vaccine and therapeutic initiatives. With regards to making it mandatory, keeping it voluntary, that's something that we'll closely work with Dr. Tam and Minister Haidu on to determine when we get to that stage how to proceed. But my objective at this moment, and it's still early stages because many of the initiatives are in clinical trials, is to build that domestic capacity here in Canada and then ultimately be in a position, if we are fortunate enough to have a vaccine, that we can produce them in significant amount of doses to be able to give them to Canadians. And then the question, as you raised, is it mandatory or voluntary? That's something that I will continue to work very closely with in terms of conversations with my colleague, Minister Haidu, as well as Dr. Tam.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from Tom Parry, CBC News. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'd like to ask you about Dr. Tam's comments from yesterday saying that a vaccine is not a silver bullet. You were asked about this in French. I guess that my question is, even if one of these vaccines does prove to be effective, how long do you think it's going to be before life gets back to normal for Canadians, or do you think life is ever going to get back to normal?
Well, I'll start. The importance of Dr. Tam's comments yesterday is the following. There is not one solution to carry Canadians and the Canadian economy out of the pandemic. Multiple efforts on multiple fronts must be made and followed. And so in terms of the vaccination, that would likely not be mandatory, as Dr. Tam has mentioned. It is an added protection that will hopefully be available to Canadians who are taking monumental efforts now to wear PPE, to stay at home, to social distance, even as we enter additional phases of the pandemic. We all want a silver bullet, but unfortunately, that's not the case. And so the approach of the Government of Canada, and particularly us in contracting, has been to say, look, we need multiple contracts over multiple periods of time for PPE so that Canadians, frontline healthcare workers, essential services providers can stay protected as they return or seek to return to their normal lives. On top of that, we need to explore additional prospects. Indeed, the vaccination is one of those prospects. But as Minister Baines mentioned, there are others. And the therapeutics and vaccine task forces will, with the science, lead us towards those additional answers. But again, it's unfortunate, but it's true. There is no silver bullet, and we must all work together to get through this crisis.
And can I ask you as well, how do you decide who gets government funding? Because we've heard from at least one firm that says they've been doing some promising research, but they aren't getting government support. So how do you decide who is in and who's out?
So it's a great question. And we know there's a lot of positive energy out there, a lot of initiatives that are underway, and many people want to see their work continued. Many scientists believe in the work that they're doing. They're very passionate about it. That is why we established the vaccine and therapeutics task forces, so they can provide us with the best possible advice, that they can follow the science. And these are the experts that we need to determine how to prioritize where to make the investments. As I indicated in my remarks earlier, we've invested $1.1 billion. So we've put forward significant amounts of monies to support Canadian scientists, ingenuity, creativity, and we're confident that over the coming months we will continue to demonstrate how passionate we are about the science and unveil those investments in a timely manner.
Thank you. Merci. The next question from Ashley Legasic, News Talk 1010. Please go ahead. Line open.
Good morning. Thank you very much for taking my question. Ministers, if both of you could share your answers to this, that would be great. With the announcement today, has the Canadian government come up with a plan at this point for how vaccines will be rolled out? And if so, what will the hierarchy order be for receiving one?
So with respects to the plan of if we're fortunate enough to have a vaccine and how that's rolled out will be determined with our public health authorities. We'll work very closely with Dr. Tam, Minister Haidu, and local health experts across the country to determine how we will proceed. What we want to highlight today is the fact that we're making investments in international and promising vaccine initiatives, in Canadian scientists, and in Canadian vaccines and therapeutics as well. It's still early stages. Much of this work is in clinical trials. So it's important that we manage expectations that this vaccine will not be developed overnight, but we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we pursue all the promising leads based on the best possible advice, which is given to us by our vaccine and therapeutic task forces.
And I will just add that I think of the vaccine issue in 3 stages: discovery, production, and distribution. At the current time, our government is fully focused on making sure that we have access to vaccines through negotiations with multiple suppliers, domestic and international, in this first phase of addressing the vaccine conundrum. Going forward, there will be decisions made by our Minister of Health and by the Vaccine Task Force regarding advice for the distribution of the vaccine. I can well imagine that vulnerable populations will be at the top of the list because of the importance in protecting Canadians first and foremost.
Thank you. And I know the importance of being patient and knowing a vaccine will not be ready, at least for a while. But a study released this week shows most Canadians want to at least wait for a little bit after the rollout before getting the vaccines in fear of some side effects or long-term repercussions. What would you say to Canadians who are concerned about the safety of a vaccine whenever we do get one?
From my perspective, I have enormous confidence in our public health agency. We'll make sure that any vaccine that is presented to Canadians is undergoing the proper due diligence and rigor that Health Canada has put in place to make sure that it's done in a safe and effective manner. So we're very mindful that, A, we want to pursue all options when it comes to finding a vaccine and developing a vaccine, but at the same time, we want to make sure that when we are in a position to provide that vaccine to Canadians, that we communicate effectively the science behind it as well. And when we come to that stage, I am confident in our Minister of Health, Patty Hajdu, and Dr. Tam to make sure that they communicate all the aspects of the vaccine, if we're fortunate enough to develop one, and how to make sure that that vaccine is distributed.
And I will just add, from a contracting standpoint, that the approval of Health Canada, the regulatory approval, is fundamental to our contracting process and the considerations that we put on the table with suppliers as being fundamental to our ability to procure.
That is Anita Anand, the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, and Navdeep Bains, the Minister of Innovation and Science and Industry. And they are providing an update on how the Canadian government will secure COVID-19 vaccines for Canadians. So let's bring in the CBC's Ashley Burke, who has been listening along with us, joins me now live from Ottawa. You know, this is a big thing that Canadians are listening for because of many just want to get back to that normal life. It's still going to be a while, but walk us through what the government just announced and the agreements that they have made.
Well, exactly. You heard Mr. Nunn there confirm what we heard from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, that this vaccine will not be a silver bullet. Theresa Tam said this week that we still could have to wear a mask and physically distance for 2 to 3 years, and we had that confirmed again today. A big question that was asked of the ministers there was, will this vaccine be mandatory when it is in place? And we were told that it was too early to decide on that right now. That right now they're really focused around developing partnerships with companies here in Canada and internationally to actually secure a vaccine once it is ready, but that they will be taking the advice of the Medical Officer of Health down the line along with the Health Minister to decide whether or not this will be something that's mandatory or not. But we did learn today that they do expect the first people that this vaccine will go to here in Canada is the people who are vulnerable, to help the wider population. So that was sort of the big takeaway that we just heard.
So, Ashley, just going back to what they were being asked there, you talk about the fact that, they were asked about how this will be rolled out when it's ready. The only answer they really had at this point is vulnerable populations, as you mentioned, will be at the top of the list. But as you say, for Canadians who are sitting at home saying, when will that vaccine be ready? Did they give any indication on that, and how many doses would be available?
Well, that's the big question right now, and they're not releasing the number of doses or the amount of money that they're spending on this right now, saying that they are in intense negotiations with multiple suppliers in Canada and around the world, and that releasing those details would jeopardize that. But there was a commitment to release some more details down the line in the coming weeks once they have secured more contracts. There's really this global race around the world going on right now over who's going to get the vaccine first, and countries are all sort of battling over that. They want to be the first in line, Canada as well. But Canada's also made a commitment with other world leaders to make sure that there is an equitable distribution, that countries that are developing are not going to be left behind on this. So that's something, I guess, at the back of the mind of the government when they're working on this right now. But today there was few details about the specific numbers, just a commitment that they are working behind the scenes to secure as many possible contracts as possible. And also when they're creating these contracts with these companies, like these two big major pharmaceutical companies we learned about today, they're saying, okay, we want a certain amount of the vaccine now, but also we want to be able to add on order additional rounds in the future. And that's something they really stressed today, that they're trying to make these very flexible contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashley, we know you're going to continue to bring us the latest on this. We appreciate you watching the press conference and bringing us all the insights. Thanks, Ashley.
You're welcome.
CBC's Ashley Burke in Ottawa.